Board meeting, it is 6:32. Introduction of board members, beginning over here with Mr. Hanlon.
I'm Jeff Hanlon.
Diane Potter.
Molly Rogers. Sage Scully.
Linda Caputo.
Alyssa Tracy.
Becky Fless.
Tony B.
Jack Gooderoff.
Kira Blodgett.
Megan Carlson.
Sean Folk.
Joanne O'Brien.
Matt Lillybridge.
Administrative staff, those that are here.
Pat Hopkins, Superintendent.
Terry McGuire, Director of Technology. Angela Hardy, Director of Curriculum.
Excellent, thank you all. Please, let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
That was a test.
Someone moved that on.
Good job.
Entertaining sleep. I never know.
Sorry. All right then. Let's see, review. Oh, nope, now we're at public comment. So board members,
Do you want to look at the list maybe, Becky, and?
sure,
Still
Matt, would you grab the
deliberation.
list, please? And has everyone that wishes to speak written on the sheet? Would you like to speak?
I think that was added to the agenda, so.
You were
Oh,
on the
you're
agenda.
Mr. McDonald.
Yes.
You were
Oh,
on the
nice
agenda.
to meet you. Thank you.
Thank you for adding.
You are on the agenda.
Thank you.
Yes. So there are 9 people on the list at 2 minutes each. That should be 18 minutes. That should fall within our.
I say we allow all.
Sure. Yeah. Perfect. Okay.
All right.
And yeah, and you're gonna read the
So-
public comments. Great.
So we have a script for public comment. So ladies and gentlemen, we're about to convene into the public comment period of our meeting. State law in Maine requires a public comment item on agendas of a full meeting of the school board. We also believe it is crucial for us to hear from our community members about their concerns and issues, and so are pleased to have this as an agenda item. Having said that, please note that the board is here to listen. The public comment period is not designed to be a discussion. Accordingly, please do not expect the board to respond to your concerns and questions tonight. This is because we take your concerns and questions seriously and want to have sufficient time to process and research issues, if need be. We will, if appropriate, respond to your questions and concerns at a future meeting or have the proper staff member get back to you at the appropriate time. I also want to point out that under state and federal privacy laws, we are unable to entertain any comments or questions about school personnel, particular student matters, any rumors presented as facts that compromise the privacy of others, and any health or medical information protected as confidential. Please know, however, that we take all concerns very seriously. On any matter of concern, we would ask you to go through the appropriate administrative channels. Finally, we recognize that right now our nation and community are polarized on a number of issues. That said, we want our school board meetings to serve as an example to our students that members of our school board and members of our community can deal with controversial issues in a civil manner and demonstrate mutual respect for one another. In that spirit, we will insist that all speakers and members of the audience maintain civility and respect for any divergent views that others possess. We ask that speakers please address comments to the board directly rather than to the audience. Speakers may address items pertinent to tonight's meeting agenda or any topic related to the school unit's programs, policies, or operations. Let me be clear, any statement made that includes personally identifiable comments about a student will not be permitted. In the unlikely event that the meeting becomes unruly, the board will recess the meeting and return once order has been restored. Finally, I want to remind everyone that you may submit written comments to the board in lieu of speaking during the public comment period if you so choose. So regarding the protocol for this evening, please review the board pamphlet, Welcome to Our School Board Meeting, that provides a copy of policy BEDH, public participation at board meetings, that explicitly outlines the manner in which the public comment will be managed. Individuals who wish to speak are required to fill out the sign-in form. Those who wish to speak will be required to state their name and town or city of residence before beginning your remarks. Consistent with policy BEDH, the board will hear public comments from residents and employees of the school unit first, If there is time remaining in the public comment period, once all the residents have had the opportunity to speak, the board will permit comments from non-residents. The board will now entertain public comments for 20 minutes. Each individual speaker is allotted 2 minutes. The individual time limits will be enforced so that as many members of the public who wish to speak may be allowed to do so. I believe we have a timekeeper.
Yep.
Awesome.
All right, Amber Tamarasi. Thank you for being here.
Yes, thank you. Amber Tarasi, resident of West Gardner. Thank you for letting me speak. I'm a parent of a third generation child at Helen Thompson School, so I have a lot of history here. And I watched the last couple board meetings and was really concerned that the voices being heard were not ones of residents. And so I just wanted to say that I appreciate you implementing this new procedure to hear from residents first. That means a lot. And I also just want to say that there's a lot of conversations happening online about what the school board is or isn't doing. And I just want to say you guys are doing a great job and I really appreciate it. I appreciate that you are serving all children, regardless of gender, gender expression, gender identity. Thank you for doing such a great job. That's all.
Next, Beth Booker, you're number 2. Well, let me do a clarification, and I'm sorry, Beth. Beth lives in Gardner, but she's a staff person.
She can speak.
She's number 2. You're number
All right, I was gonna say, I'm a parent, community member, staff member, I get it all covered.
I love it. I'm just trying to follow the rules as I get them. Thank you.
All right, I'm gonna keep it quick too, probably won't use the full 2 minutes. I've been here speaking to you guys a few times before about the same topic. I think that you guys have done a fantastic job. Our policy on transgender bathroom, inclusive bathrooms follows state law, and that is what is needed. We are protecting the children, and that needs to continue. Anytime that this comes up in a board meeting, I will always come and I will always speak in support of our students. All of our students need continued protection, and thank you for continuing to do that with this policy.
Elsie Bradley? Did I say it wrong?
Yeah, no, that's right.
Okay.
Sorry. I've never done this before, so I'm a little nervous.
Okay.
So I absolutely, I have nothing against transgender or anything like that. My concern is, we haven't done the meeting yet, so I don't know what the whole policy is. But if there will be protections in place for children who are uncomfortable with it. So that's just my concern with it all. Thank you.
Thank you. That may become clearer when we get to the policy
Okay.
portion of regular meeting.
Yeah, I thought this was after the meeting.
No.
Sorry.
Well, no, you're good. Glad you're here. Okay, Nikki, how do you say your last name?
Disney. I'll try and say it. I'm same with what Kelsey just said, like I'm new to this, I've never done it. Same thing with the bathroom situation. I'm kind of concerned on if you have kids that are going in that are uncomfortable, how's that gonna be for little ones? It's different when they're older because they know what they're doing, but when they're little, they're not sure. It's the only thing I'm kind of concerned on.
We'll get to that. Thank you so much. Glad you're here.
Thank you.
Michelle Tucker?
Hi there, my name is Michelle Tucker and I'm a Gardner resident. I'm here about the policy to not notify parents if the child has decided that they would like to transition. I don't feel it is appropriate to not notify a parent. If a child is going through that sort of turmoil in their life, they need the support of their parents. They need the support of anybody in their life. I am currently a student at USM, my last year of getting my social and behavioral sciences degree. And it is very evident from all the research that a child's brain does not finish forming until they're 25. So how can you say a 12-year-old, a 14-year-old, a 16-year-old, they may not know what they truly want. They may have a moment of questioning. There are many people who question their gender expression, their sexual identity in their adolescence, and then they come out of that. And and change their mind. And so for a school district to not notify parents and to not partner with the parents to work with that child for whatever that child needs is completely inappropriate. It violates parental rights, and we should reopen that policy and talk more about that. I'm not saying that I mean, I personally don't think that transitioning should be happening in school anyway. I believe that's something when they're an adult, a young adult, but it needs to be in partnership with parents. The parent knows their child best. So please revisit that policy. Also, there are no protections in place. If a child is being abused, there should be a mechanism to report that, not just have the teachers in the school district make that
10
determination.
seconds.
Thank you for your time. Protect our students, please.
James O'Brien.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the board. I wholeheartedly agree with your assessment. I am from West Gardner. Don't have any children in the school system, but I do have grandchildren, nieces and nephews, and hopefully my great-grandchildren will go through the system as well. As such, I had some issues with the policy that you're putting forth for transgender students. Most of the information that you have here, you already have in your policies as far as hazing and other harassment and the mechanisms to report it and how you're going to take care of those issues when they are reported. This doesn't need to be put in here. This is segregating another section, repeating what you've already done. Once again, it's a matter of enforcing what you already have in place. I have particular problems with the restrooms and locker rooms when you have a transgender person or transsexual, however you want to call it, being able to go in and use a female locker room, shower, bathroom or whatnot on a multi-stall unit. You know, I agree with the whole thing as far as single bathrooms not having, you know, nomenclature, if you will, that, you know, identifies it as a male or a female, but we all have in all the schools right now, from what I understand, is unisex toilets. There are them in all schools that you use, male, female, and when you say unisex, it covers all sexual orientations, and they can use that. There is also a thing on, which was referenced in your items here as item subchapter 4592 of the Maine Human Rights Act. And I'll just read it to you very quickly. This section does not require any entity to permit an individual or to participate or benefit from goods, services, facilities, privileges, advantages, and accommodations that the entity, when the individual poses a direct threat or health of safety or others. For the purpose of this section, direct threat means
I appreciate your time, sir. Yeah, that was the time.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
Number 7 is Alan Sarvenis.
Good evening, Chairwoman Flesh, MSAD11 school board members, Superintendent Hopkins. I appreciate your time today. I do appreciate the small debate you had about this policy, but I did not hear any of the new content. I mean, cited any of the new content that was submitted prior. And I just want to make sure that everyone knows what that content actually was, which was another legal opinion from a law firm called Brands Isaacson, who represents the Mills for Governor campaign, that explicitly says that the language in this policy will have you sued, and they do not believe they would win in court with this language. That's exactly what they say. And that's primarily based upon that parents' rights aren't just parents' rights, that they're an inherent fundamental right that they own. And it's evident that some on this board have no idea how to even comprehend what that means. Okay, so if you want to speak and the government tries to tell you not to speak, they're violating your fundamental right. And it's the same for parents. Okay, a student's rights is tied to their parents' rights. And when you want this, in this policy, when the superintendent or the state unilaterally, the district, I mean, unilaterally assumes authority that they can violate a parent's rights without using the mandatory reporting process, there's no precedent for it. That's why it doesn't exist. The mandatory reporting process was created so in case you thought a child was in harm and could not notify the parents, that you would mandatory report. So you have no legal authority or anything to do by not notifying parents immediately. You are violating the parents' due process that they deserve by federal court and state court if you're not going to notify them. That's why the mandatory reporting process does notify the parents. They just don't notify them when the child's in their presence. And that's why Brandon Isaacson had to tell the district
10
twice
seconds.
to change their policy. And that's why the Title IX judge just ripped apart the new Title IX revisions. And I ask everyone to go read it, because what all you're complaining about, that judge is firm bottom.
Thank you. And let's see, Jennifer Curran.
Thank you for letting me speak. I'm Jennifer Curran from Falmouth, Maine. As a mental health provider, I'm in support of this policy. Support for all children to have a safe space to think and feel authentic. This satisfies state law. Trans kids aren't harming their straight cisgender peers. In actuality, transgender children are the ones who are typically targeted. This isn't new. The ones that are bullied, and the statistics back that up. The statistics show that LGBTQIA students, 41%, seriously consider suicide, much higher than their peers. From the Trevor Project, 52% of LGBTQIA households are reported not affirming to them. So when you're considering letting parents know, I am sure that gay, lesbian, straight, bi, trans kids want their parents involved, but sometimes they don't have that opportunity. The highest homelessness in Portland are from the LGBTQIA population, and there's a reason for that. When simple pronouns are respected, we see these suicide rates drop. As a mental health provider who sees patients throughout the state, my job is not to encourage a client to be LGBTQIA, and I know that's not yours. It's to give them a safe place. I'm not worried if a kid's straight or gay. I want them happy and safe. I don't believe kindness and care is conversion. What I've seen is a movement pushing unfounded belief that teachers, schools, mental health providers are working to indoctrinate children, encouraging them to be LGBTQIA, and that is just not truthful. I am part of the community, and when I was a kid, there was no policy, no teacher, no one to talk to. It was quite lonely. And now that I'm older, that's why I showed up here tonight. That you are protecting children, children that do not have voices and parents that support them. Thank you.
And lastly, Carolyn Thomas.
I'm Carolyn Thomas. I too am from Falmouth. And last year, our school district in Falmouth went through a very similar process that you went through. And we also implemented a transgender and gender expansive policy. And we did that in consultation with the Garment policy, with the South Portland policy, as well as parents and students and teachers and legal counsel and other important constituents. And having that input was incredibly important. It took time for us to draft the policy and to implement it. But getting that policy in place and getting it just right was important for these kids. I would tell you now that a year in from having that policy in place, we've had no issues in Falmouth. Most of all, the district is now in compliance with state law, which has been incredibly important. And also we've now documented in policy what have been the practices at the school all along, quite frankly. And we've made it clearer for our students as well as our teachers and the parents what the expectations are, and that's incredibly important. And so right now, everyone is appreciative of that work. Right now, we've had no negative impacts and a lot of positive impacts for the LGBTQ kids in the schools. And that's not to say we aren't continuing conversations about how do we make some of the restrooms safer or more comfortable, if students weren't comfortable, right? There's money being spent to modify things, right? But those are conversations that we have to have because we shouldn't make,
10
we
seconds.
shouldn't take away from people just to be in compliance with law. So let's make it so that these kids who have historically been bullied. Safe knowing they are. I agree. Thank you.
Thank you.
That everyone?
That's everyone. Thank you all. Very happy that you're here. All right, review and approval of agenda minutes, prioritization of items and alteration of the established agenda for that sequence as needed.
I just have a minor adjustment since yesterday's agenda was posted. That is on page 3, under general information, E. I'm adding co-curricular at the high school, add Lori Beth Rankin and Patrick Quinn for coverage at the fitness center. Patrick will be semester 1 and Lori Beth Rankin will be semester 2.
All righty. Motion to approve the agenda as amended. So moved. Second by Diane. Questions or comments? All those in favor? Thank you. Motion carries. Approval of minutes of previous meetings, the regular board meeting of August 1st, the special school board meeting of August 19th, and the school board workshop of August 19th. Motion to approve these 3. So moved by Jack and second by Molly. Questions or comments? All those in favor? Thank you. Recognitions and celebrations are none. Correspondence is written? Yes. Committee reports. It looks as though there are no meetings with the exception of policy. Tony, I'll give it to you.
Thank you. Yeah, excuse me. I'm so sorry.
Do you need some water?
I have some water and I have a lozenge and I think I'll manage. but
Okay.
Thank you, yeah.
Let us know if you need
A
Heimlich.
little, yeah, right, yeah. If I get not too carried away. So we have these policies advanced for a first reading. Let's see, we're actually looking to forego the second reading. We want to do the first reading and implement these policies for the start of the school year. This is something we reviewed as the policy committee and decided on. Reasons for stepping a little out of line with our traditional practice of having policy committee review first reading at a board meeting and then second reading is that the bulk of these policies have been updated through updates to the global federal Title IX. I believe if I'm saying that correctly, Pat. And so we wanted to make sure that these policies reflect those federal changes for the start of the school year.
That went into effect August 1st.
In fact, went into effect a month ago, August 1st. So we want to make sure that we're in compliance that way. One of the policies that that we discussed tonight to some extent is ACAAA. We advanced that for implementation after a first reading because of the due diligence we've put in to address this policy for students that are transgender and gender expansive. Included in that policy are the gender support plan and gender transition plan, and that clarifies a lot of what how the policy is implemented. So I'd like to put forth a motion to accept the policies as a bundle for the first reading and then to forego a second reading and implement those after this first reading.
Moved by Jack, second by Joanne. Questions or comments?
Becky,
Yes.
Just for the people who brought up what protections were in place.
Yes.
This would be the opportunity to talk about it.
Yes, absolutely.
So for those members of the public who are concerned about what protections were put in place with this new policy or existing policy that we're pushing through for the first reading, if it was November of last year, it's the first time we talked about this issue. And something that's not addressed in the policy, but is one of those things that goes without saying, is the accommodations. And that's a word I used back then, and it's the same thing that's going on right now, that are in place at the schools as far as being able to use a different bathroom from the one, and if the administrators were here, I talked to Sarah Sims, the middle school principal, and said, if you're a seventh grader, you're supposed to go to this wing, but if you don't want to use that bathroom, can they go to another one? And she said, yes, of course, there's multiple options. And over the summer, we've done the changes to the bathrooms too for even more privacy. So those are just some of the protections that were put in place.
Specifically what we did to the stalls.
I mean, the stalls go floor to ceiling now, basically.
4 bathrooms with 2 stalls each. So there are 8 new existing stalls that are floor to ceiling for students.
And they're also ADA compliant.
Yes,
That was the other piece.
in all the schools? In the middle school. And in the elementary schools, most classrooms have a bathroom. But and the high school has, she's asking about the high school, just a second. The high school has many, many bathrooms. And it has not been an issue at the high school, but there are many bathrooms that are single-use bathrooms, are stalled bathrooms. There's a lot of bathrooms at the high school.
And if any student had an issue, they could go to the administrator and it would be addressed.
Absolutely.
And what about the locker rooms? Do the locker rooms have any secure private areas?
I'm sorry, what?
The locker rooms, are there any secure and more private spaces in the locker rooms?
I can't answer that question.
Work with the administration.
Yes.
So this- So this is not a two-way conversation.
Yeah,
This is
so
the
as
board.
we said, as Tony said, it's not a conversation. We're trying to provide information. I haven't been in the high school since my kids graduated, so if something is different. But we get regular reports from our building facilities manager. And I know that he does what he needs to do to be compliant with the law. This is, again, not a two-way conversation. And I would encourage people to read the policy. If you haven't read the policy and all the addendums, all the paperwork that goes at the end, to read it all, it's on the website.
But if you can't tell us what
I'm
the structure
sorry.
looks like.
I'm sorry. Not,
Point of order.
thank you.
Okay. Right now, we have a motion on the floor.
Yes,
Okay, so the discussion is only between the members here.
yes,
The audience can only listen. That's the law.
Yep.
That's the Robert's Rules of Order. Okay? I have a bunch of concerns and questions. When you're ready, I'd like to speak.
this is your committee, you go.
Yeah.
Okay. As it's presently written, and I printed this off from our website, the communications I received. It is an improvement in that it's requiring, using the word shall and must, to notify parents when a child makes some sort of declaration. But in this, it also says that the inadvertently putting a student at serious risk by contacting parents. Well, that's ambiguous. Who gets to decide what is serious? And what is serious? What's the criteria you use to determine that? I mean, some people would say, well, if a child, if they go home and their parents say, well, I got a call from the school today and you're grounded. Is that serious? Or give me a cell phone. Is that serious? I mean, who gets to make the decision what serious is? And if there is a serious complaint, if the school, whoever, by the way, who is the named individual that makes this decision about whether to notify the parents or not because of a serious concern for a child's health and welfare, right? There's no name attached to that decision. Administrator, is that the principal only, or a group of people? By the way, if there is a serious concern, wouldn't that be an issue for law enforcement? If you really think a child's gonna be in danger when they go home, that's why I object to the whole idea of moving this policy along now without looking at it further, because there are some serious unanswered questions. Because Title IX is right out the door. I mean, you're gonna be kidding me. This is what
I would
we've been
hesitate
fought for years.
I would hesitate to endorse Title IX being out the door. That's not something I'm gonna decide here. I just want to answer some of what you're saying. If there is a law enforcement issue, it's not our role as the board, but I know that part of the team that's identified within ACAAA would either notify law enforcement. I'm confident they would notify law enforcement if such a threat existed, or kind of getting back to that second, where's the decision about how serious it is? The mandated reporting process, if it is that serious, there's a training that's attached to that, and that's mandatory training for all school staff that has specific components there. Part of that is to make a reasonable assessment of what the risk is, and so it is a little bit subjective, but it's not just your grounded. I do know
the
that.
other serious component to that is the supreme interest of the parents.
And
The mandatory reporting. I mean, the very person that you can't cut out of this is the mother and father of this child. You don't have the legal authority to do
You're
it.
speaking out of both sides of your mouth, Jeff, so when you're saying that.
Don't put
mandatory
words in my mouth. Shame on you.
mandatory reporting, and Jeff, I hear what you're saying. Mandatory reporting is its own complex issue in that sense. It does bypass a parent. Parents aren't necessarily notified in that process immediately. They will be contacted in that process, though. That's what they do. The Department of Health and Human Services would then send a child protective worker to investigate, or not, actually.
But I mean, when do the parents finally get notification of these things? That's what I'm saying. This policy there's a lot of unanswered questions in this.
The other thing is, I want to be careful about, this is also about supporting students and families who are having this experience. And so some parents may not know about it, and that's a certain percentage. There are parents that may know about this and be very supportive, and they need a process to be able to advocate for their children too. And so we can't ignore them either, right? I hear the concern that parents are being bypassed, but this process, this policy is about creating a team and making sure that the parents are notified is part of that process, unless there's a critical safety issue.
That word "unless" is huge. It's just, unless what? All kinds of unanswered questions here.
And that unless there's a mandatory reporting
Issue.
Yeah.
thank you, yeah. Content, and that's been there for many years now, that child protective obligation to report, and that's been there.
And
for-
it's not only for transgender, it's for any student that is in a situation where there's a mandatory reporting for abuse or neglect.
Yes.
So this is the level that the administrators and the staff that are involved in the process, which is laid out in the gender transition plan and the gender support plan, would be taking into consideration. It's not, you're gonna be grounded. It has to rise up to the level that any student would have to be supported in reporting the parents for abuse or neglect.
Unless there's a criminal intent, I don't see how the school district can in any way keep the parents out of the loop, period.
What do you mean by criminal intent?
Again, that's a good question. When you use words in the policy that says serious harm,
Right.
what are you talking about? What is harm? Is it hurting their feelings? Is it grounding them?
I just said what it
Again.
was.
It's part of the mandated reporting process. So instead of getting down to what that is in this policy, we already know that mandated reporting is its own animal. And that's where it applies here, so we don't have to.
Let me bring it up this way. You're dealing with a child's mental health. You've got a child that they're in one body, they think they belong in another. You're dealing with a child with a mental issue, an emotional mental issue.
I want to challenge that a little bit and because we're moving away from sort of what our role is to decide.
But but my point is, you're dealing with a child that has an issue and you're not informing their parents about the issue. That's what I'm getting.
Not true.
What it says,
So
that's not what.
It doesn't say that. It says
It says you can subject it to your criteria.
No, it's not just our criteria. It's based on the mandatory reporting of abuse or neglect. It's not just whatever we think it is.
Say it here.
But
The Yarmouth policy actually does.
And Jeff, your whole argument is the assumption that all parents are good parents.
All parents are parents.
Yes,
Okay.
but
And
you
their
can have an
children belong to
abusive
them,
parents that
not to
would
us.
I just
throw
want
out a child.
we need, yeah.
People need to start raising their
So
I've made my point.
I want
Leave it at
to
that.
grab a point of order just to respond to one more point, number 3 here on the policy that we went through and adapted and listened to people and adjusted and put language in. The administration will develop a plan to address school-related issues in consultation with the student, their parents / guardians, unless deemed unsafe for the students to do so, and other meeting participants. If there's an IEP, that'll be different. And so the administration will develop a plan with the student and their parents, unless that safety piece comes in. We did not get into whether or not Child Protective Services should have the authority to do investigations or whether or not we should or shouldn't do those mandated reports. That's a fundamental, that's another policy, that's another process. That is part of this policy, but that is not something that I anticipate we'll be changing. And so this is involving parents. There's a consideration that risk could be there, and then we would call Child Protective Services in that sense, according to this policy that we now have a vote on.
I'll say no more. You've heard me. Okay.
Just from a practical standpoint, so a student that comes to the school and wants to be recognized as being gender expansive or transgender, they're going to be supported by our school. They're going to be supported by our social workers, by our administration, by our teachers, and people will speak with that student. And it's coming out to your parents is going to be a really terrifying thing for a lot of kids. It's one of the biggest, most terrifying things they have to do because they don't know how their parents are going to respond. And these amazing, wonderful parents who are working very hard and are not abusive might still need a little bit of time. The student might need a little bit of time to process with their counselors, with their peers, before they're ready to bring their parents on board. And us trying to micromanage the moment at which a parent has a legal obligation to be, or a legal right to be informed of their child's thing, this is not our purview. We need to just have a policy that covers people and not worry about micromanaging it. We're assuming that our people are acting in the best interests with the best intentions for our students. And this is a separate issue from mandated reporting because our children, it's a separate issue.
Why do employees?
Sage had her hand up, I'm sorry.
Hi, everybody. So I would just like to bring to attention the fact that your job as the school board is to put the students first. And a component of that is a student's
mental health. Now, going behind a student's back against their permission about something that is personal and private to them could seriously damage their mental health. I'd like to bring up the statistics that were brought up during the public comment. Transgender students are significantly more likely to commit suicide because they feel that the people closest to them don't support them. Sorry. And it's just, as a student, I like to believe that I have autonomy over my own choices. And if I felt that something that I was going to say was going to cause myself harm, either through another person, or if I said something and then that indirectly affected me, I would feel not great. So basically, I'm just saying not everybody has good parents. I have a cousin who I supported for 2 years before they were comfortable like talking to other people. So I just feel like students should have a choice about who they talk to first.
Thank you,
That's
Sage. Good job. Yeah, thanks, Sage, very much. Other people have anything they'd like to offer?
I mean, I'd throw a little thing in, I mean, it seems like our entire school is, policy and all of this is just straight, affirmation. And there's no room for dissent at all. And I feel like a parent should have the right to allow to be able to dissent, be able to, offer up opposing points of view. And I don't think that makes them you, I don't think it makes it wrong. I think that's the natural part of life, is to be able to, go after ideas, go after values and everything like that. So I do agree with that. I do agree with that, and we should be able to allow parents to see this, so that we should allow parents to actually have a say in this. Because just because they dissent, that doesn't mean that it's wrong, it doesn't mean that it's evil, it doesn't mean that we're hurting them. It's a conversation, especially with somebody that is half of you, that needs to happen.
And that makes sense. That absolutely makes sense. And I think that I would need you to define how the school does not, or help me understand how the school does not allow for dissent. How are we not doing that?
When you're not actually communicating with the parents when this is happening, as we've been talking about this, is that it's up to the child who's a minor. I mean, almost all of our students here are minors, right? So it still has to go through an adult. I mean, we don't allow minors to make like life-changing decisions without having a parental consent. We don't even allow individuals to go on field trips alone without parental consent. So this is something that I said we should have the parents involved with this.
And we do.
And yeah, we do
That's the
have
plan.
plans. That's in the policy, it's in the plan, it's gone from a 4-page to a 10-page policy. It's all in there. I need you to help me understand how, as a school, are you saying that if I learn that Becky is transgendered and Tony is my social worker, that Tony, before we have any kind of conversation, I'm having a bad day, the first thing Tony should do is call my mom? Are you suggesting that?
So you answer the question and then you inform the parent. I don't see what's wrong with that. It's like you go to whoever is your mandatory reporter, whoever it is assigned at the school to handle that thing. If it's an administrator, if it's a counselor. So you answer the question, send the student to the counselor, then you go inform the parent of what's going on. I mean, that's the clearest way that parents would actually have.
And it's not that black and white. It might not be a counselor, it could be the custodian or somebody else. I mean, anyone.
Everyone is, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that's why the policy is in place, so that everyone's protected, yes. Show me where it's not. Can you give me an example where our mandated reporting has failed.
So if I can just reiterate
Please.
what I said at policy
I just wanna
committee,
understand.
that we have said administratively, we've talked about and we have said since day one, our intention is to involve parents. I completely agree that parents need to be a part of
Absolutely.
that process. Is it right from that immediate get-go? Maybe not, but there is a team of people. It's not necessarily one individual, and it's talking to the student about their feelings, about where they are at the present moment, and talking to them about the importance of bringing their family and their parents into that conversation. I completely agree that they shouldn't be kept out, but there are times, despite if we call DHHS, which we do, and we have an SRO who's in the school that we consult if we ever feel like there is a student who is in jeopardy, and it does happen. That based on what the board directed me to do back in February, it was to include this little caveat because there are circumstances. So what this policy shows right now, it is supposed to be a reflection of the feedback we heard from parents in February, with the direction from the policy committee and the full board. So if we didn't get it right, certainly we can make that adjustment, but felt like we were being very responsive to what parents were asking us to do by tightening this policy and making it really, really clear that we want parents, it is a partnership, it is a collaboration. And the other thing, to help demonstrate the process, we added the support plans as part of the policy, so that you can see exactly the questions asked and what we do and the steps and who's involved, so that we're as transparent as we possibly can be for parents, for students, for board members and members of the public.
You ready for a vote? That we were at? This is yours.
I'm good to move forward. The only other comment I would make is that this is also about making sure that we have an active policy that reflects the law. And so this isn't different from the statute.
Just wondering if there's just a point. It was brought to my attention that the Yarmouth school policy that we considered looking at specifically references the statute that our mandatory reporting covers, but would it answer this question or satisfy this concern if we specifically referenced the statute?
We talked about that we could just put the statute at the bottom, sort of like when we do resolutions for
No.
Is there a reason not to?
fall conference.
Because
Yeah, I was just gonna.
if we are putting in language referring to the statute for mandatory reporting,
How would you?
we're getting to the idea that the only situation in which
That we would enact this is in a mandatory reporting situation somehow.
You're being too specific.
right.
Yeah.
It raises the threshold at which anybody gets any discretion whatsoever to the threshold at which somebody assumes there's abuse happening in the house. And that's going to be, that's really, that's it's a chilling effect. It's too heavy for the teachers. It's too scary for the students. Be like, okay, well, you can quit this. We can tell your parents, or if you really don't want to tell them, we can always, investigate them for abuse. It's putting a potential student in really unenviable situation, and I don't think it's fair. I don't think it's right.
but that's a necessary part. And this is about supporting students. It's not about, like, the abuse situation is likely the more rare situation. And we want to make sure this is supporting students and families with having those conversations and making sure that they can feel comfortable having those conversations. And that's why the human rights statute 5 MRSA, whatever the subtitles were, was the one that was important to be included there. So,
And it doesn't take away a parent's desire to dissent if that's what they want to do, correct?
right, correct. But they could dissent. They could be grounded. That's not a mandated reporter thing.
Right.
But if there's going to be danger, again, mandated reporting, which I'm going into again for some reason, is about neglect. It's about abandonment. It's about you can't live here. It's not even necessarily, a physical abuse situation. It's any of those situations that
Shunning.
the shunning that can contribute to negative mental health outcomes for people. Sage, I think it's really powerful that you brought up that there are statistics that not only that students with gender expansive and transgender experiences are homeless at higher rates than the general youth population. They also experience suicide at higher rates than the youth population. And this policy is about making sure that those students and families, again, feel supported with communicating that to somebody and finding ways to get that support in their community. We as a district want to have that include their parents and guardians.
And I will tell you that if a parent's first notice is that their child is transgender, is having social services knock on their door or give them a call, if that child goes home, then they're really in danger. So I think it's better just to leave that off the table and handle the process as we have. And on those rare occasions where we suspect that abuse is the case, and it's not by far the most, it's just the case of it takes some time for parents to get used to the idea, to be educated about it themselves. And it also gives the child a chance to process and gain the support of the family. But if you make it so it's mandatory reporting or you can't do anything, then the child is at risk for mental distress in the school until something can be done. And they certainly don't want to have their parents reported and having social services show up.
So I think we should probably use the one person, one vote on this one. So we'll need to do a roll call.
Melissa, did you have something else?
I was just gonna, thank you, Nat. Yeah, Tony, you were getting to it and Jack started, but I was gonna say policies in general are meant to be covering all priorities of the policy, and then you enforce it for the specific. So I think adding the law would just get us down a hole we don't do with our other policies per se, so I don't think we should go outside of the norm. Thank
If I
you.
can have one more comment, just to address some of the people who have issues. No policy is perfect. No law is perfect. I mean, we see it on a day-to-day basis, but as I said in the last policy meeting, we didn't write this up on the back of a napkin. You know, we talked to all the different people, considered different things and stuff like that, despite the input from other people, from the public, from everyone who gets online and stuff like that, and they like to quote certain people. As we went to the legal means of trying to get the best policy possible, a couple of individuals who came against us quoted the Maine Parents' Rights in Education, which I went and Googled it after the fact, and they're a hate group by the Southern Poverty Law Center. So, you know, you can consider the source, thank you, of where your information comes from. And I think we, on the board, went for the best possible answer.
So yeah, are we holding on a vote?
If you're ready, I will roll call.
Shall tally.
We have a recall of what the motion is we're voting on, so.
Good call, Jack.
We're moving those forward.
My motion was to move the bundle of policies as listed. Move the policies as listed as a bundle for first reading and forego second reading so that we can implement those now.
And there's 13 policies. We just talked about one.
Exactly.
Okay, you want me to start? All right, Linda Caputo,
I vote that we go. Is that a yes or no?
that's a yes.
Yes.
Megan Carlson,
Yes.
Becky Fless,
Yes.
Sean Coach,
No.
Jeff Hanley,
No.
Matt Lillybridge,
Yes.
Luann O'Brien,
Yes.
Jack Pitteroff,
Yes.
Diane Potter,
Yes.
Molly Rogers,
Yes.
Lisa Tracy,
Yes.
Tony B.
Yes.
Right, so. Make sure I got everyone. So that is. Sorry, I'm perplexed. Oh, right, the column isn't adding correctly. It says 8 to 2. I'm like, there were 12 people. But it's the bottom just isn't adding everyone there. So my apologies. Let me correct that.
While you do that, Pat, for the public's awareness, each representative has a number designated based on the population of the town we represent, even though we're collectively on the board. So for example, I'm in Randolph, I have a small number, as does Jack, because we have the smallest community. So when we vote, like Pat just had us do, there's a certain number calculated for each of us. And then the totals add up to yay or nay.
Yeah, so for anyone who
Yes.
lives in, any board member who's from Pittston, each vote is weighted at 1,332 points. For Gardner, it's 1,149 points. For West Gardner, it's also 1,149, and for Randolph, it's 878 per person. And it's all based on population. It's all done that way. So the vote was 10 to 2. And so that's 11,131 in favor and 2,481 opposed, so it passes. And I didn't include, sorry, I didn't include Ira and Sage. Yay? Nay?
Can I go undecided? Is that allowed?
Yep. You can.
Yes.
Okay. I will put you as abstain, okay? All right, so it passes. So, do we want to move on to wellness?
Sure. Wellness. Someone.
Yeah, do you want to talk about?
Sure, I have the one meeting I attended and then I'll let Angela chime in. There were several meetings over the summer and the staff and district teachers and such allowed us also to help participate in their welcome back that was held at Johnson Hall recently. Most members are nurses in the building, myself, Angela, Patricia Buck-Welton, and a few other folks that also work at the healthy area of the Capitol. Who am I missing?
For members of the wellness team?
Yeah,
Yeah, there's representative from each building
okay, very good.
that are composed, they comprise different roles in the building. There's a board representative,
That's me.
there's a district administrator,
Yeah.
that's me. I think that's the whole.
Okay,
Yeah, it's, the committee does, composition is based on policy, on your wellness policy.
very good. So we have established quarterly meetings, which are being chaired by one of the building representatives. And we, as mentioned, there were 3 to 4 meetings over the summer. I only was able to attend one. And start working on wellness activities and as you heard at the end of last year, there was like the Walk to Disney Challenge and things like that that were coming. And just trying to make folks accountable to their buildings and getting feedback and so forth. I wasn't at the first couple, Angela. I don't know if there's other high level.
The committee is required by your wellness policy, and the composition is determined within the policy. And what we found in the last couple of years is we didn't have adequate representation, so we worked to rebuild representation, redefine the structure and organization. So the purpose, as stated in policy, the meeting times and structures, the opportunity for schools to have some decision-making around wellness that focuses on nutrition and physical wellness. And then that could happen at the staff and the student level. So things such as a district-wide walking challenge, a district-wide water drinking challenge, and then building activities that are based on like either, like at the high school, a lot of students will help. Eventually they'll get a little thing that they vote on and decide what they want to do, and we support that. Just to sort of continue to keep on the front burner, what are the critical aspects of health and wellness, and how can we support our students and our staff around that concept?
And we received an additional award from the United Way, and we got Lynn Lyons to come back, who was here last year in December. So that is also great. Those are the two other highlights I knew I had on here.
And with that, okay, she's
Yes.
the expert on anxiety.
Right.
We're hoping to have another community
Nice.
event.
That's right, in
Another
October.
evening for parents to
Yes.
come and hear what she has to say.
That's right. Thank you. Look at that. So helpful.
Yeah, I did her, Linda Sargent, our Director of Nutrition, is also on it. This summer,
Thank
she
you.
was in her hours this school year, so she'll start engaging during the school year. Of course, our Director of Food Service will be on for wellness.
And just, it's not just policy, just to be clear, it's not just policy. Law requires that school districts have a wellness policy.
No,
And
very
that
good.
you have a wellness committee, and you're required to have a member of the board serve on that committee.
And now I know that very well.
And you have so graciously served.
Yes.
Appreciate that.
Thank you.
All right, no administrator reports and no student reports.
Well, maybe, I mean, they're here.
We have 2 days to report on.
There you go. Report on the 2 days you've had.
Yeah, sure. So, the senior class of 2025 got together,
Oh, yeah.
on like the freshman day when the freshmen came into the high school at 5:30 a.m.
Yeah, early.
To watch the sunrise. And I thought it was a very fun activity. And I think it kind of almost brought our senior class together a little bit more. So I think that's kind of what our senior class goal is to get more of those like senior activities going again. And also, me and Kira are going to try to meet with Miss Arnold every month prior to these meetings to just like discuss what we want to talk about, and also bring in more student opinion through school-wide surveys for high school students. And classes teachers are cracking down on the cell phones this year, which every single class that I've been to, they started with you can have your phone before the bell rings and after the bell rings. And honestly, it's been taken pretty well. I haven't like really said anything, so it's been working.
Yeah, same thing with my classes. The cell phone policy is going in so far. And then I also want to add that we're all excited for Spirit Week, and I think most everyone's first days went very well. I haven't heard many complaints or anything. Everyone seems to have a high morale too, so I think it's a good start to the school year.
Nice.
Excellent. That's what we like to hear. Hope Field.
I guess I would like to recommend the end.
Retire?
We retire. We
Thank you.
retire this ad hoc committee.
Yay.
The work is done. There are a couple bricks or units that need to be fixed. One came broken, and then one of our larger donors, their plaque wasn't written exactly the way they had asked, so that needs to go back and be redone a little bit. We are still kind of discussing if there are other individuals who wish to purchase more bricks, how to go about doing that. If they would like to make that donation and have their name up on the wall. And it's been landscaped, so it looks a little bit nicer than if anyone had been down to see it over August, it just looks nicer. So we're done. For now.
No more Hope Field Committee.
No, unless someone wants to take on the track.
Yeah, I was gonna
We'll call
say.
that something different.
Okay.
We'll call that the track committee.
All right. So we will remove this
Yep, for
from
the track.
the agenda and actually we'll be replacing it probably
Yeah,
with
with
your
the other
cell
one.
phone, right?
Yeah, right. Alrighty, general information. Just as written. There's a lot of that. Nominations.
Yes, we were hiring staff right up until the couple days before students returned. So we have Amber Jones, who will be teaching literacy at the middle school and special ed. We have Sarah Kaplan as the new video production teacher at the high school. We have Jennifer Alien Winchester as special ed at Gardner Area High School. Diane Moreau, that would be the chemistry teacher at the high school, and Karen Murphy as a Title I teacher in an 80% position for 1 year at Laura E. Richards.
Righty, motion to accept these nominations as a bundle. So moved by Molly, second by Linda. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? Thank you. Motion carries. New business.
All right, so new business. We have with us tonight, John McDonald. John, if you would go up, yep.
Thank you.
If you'd speak, he wants to speak to you today about Constitution Day at Helen Thompson.
Madam Chair, Superintendent, I think you asked me to call you, board members. Thank you for putting me on the agenda first. It was short order. My name is John McDonald. I live in Litchfield. I have two daughters, and both their families live in West Gardner. I have three glorious grandchildren. Since the beginning of the year, I've been talking with Ms. McCool, and I asked her if I could go in. Just so happens my grandchild will be in the 5th grade class this year. If I could go in and teach a 5th grade class, or actually really celebrate. Actually, they're going to be, he's going to be 11 years old. The Constitution on Constitution Day, which is September 17th. The 237th anniversary of the signing of the Constitution. We decided on the 4th and 5th grade classes, and I will be going in 2 weeks. It's going to be a lot of celebrating, some learning, and hopefully a whole lot of fun. I have also in getting ready for this, as I discussed with Principal Gould, when I have my own business in Litchfield, and I've been going to some other businesses in town in the school district, and 2 of them have made donations to help kind of defray the costs of what I'm trying to put together. Hannaford's in Gardner is donating 13 dozen cupcakes, which I think will be a lot of fun for the kids. I'm pretty sure. I know my grandson doesn't even know about it yet, so please keep it a secret. Also, the Everett J. Prescott Company, which is in Gardner. Now, I worked for a structural engineering company before we moved to Maine 7 years ago. I've seen their pipes around. I didn't realize their headquarters was here. The president of the company, Peter Prescott, his father started the company, donated $250. From that, my intention is to offer a gift to Principal Gould at the end. He doesn't know yet, that's secret. Bring together a framed authentic copy of the Constitution to present there. Hopefully it can get hung up into the school. But that's up to you guys, it's a present. And like I said, this isn't gonna be about celebrating. It's gonna be about informing, have some fun with the kids. And that's really just of it. My reason for asking to come here today is, when this is done, now it's 2 weeks from now, your next board meeting I see is October 3rd. I was on a school board for a lot of years ago. I wouldn't sign something that said thank you until after it was done. So I wouldn't expect you to either. But that leaves about 2 weeks for your next meeting. And in a timely fashion, what I hope to do, I'll write my own thank you note. And I thought you might be interested in saying thank you to these 2 businesses in town as well. I've written something up, one for each one. My school board had 6 members, so I barely got all the names onto the paper. So this was interesting, and thank you for walking me down memory lane. That was, it's been a long time since I sat at a school committee meeting. What I'm asking of you is, I assume after the event. I've written this, if you wish to write something yourselves, that's fine. I'd like to add this letter with my letter, and I'll personally bring it to them to say thank you for donating, thank you for supporting the schools. And give you 2 weeks to consider it, to make sure I don't bomb. But that's the intent. I ask your indulgence to either use this letter or another, just to say thank you to 2 of the businesses. And I'm gonna measure success on whether this goes off well, on whether or not I get invited back next year. Because I've already figured out, if I do it for the next 5 years, I'll have a grandchild in the class every single time. So I got an incentive to do it.
You have a vested interest.
Oh, I have a very vested interest. But if this does go off well, I do get invited back, maybe the following year, next year. That's my intent.
Excellent. John sent me a copy of the draft. I assured him that I would make copies for you, and I did not.
That's okay, I brought copies for you.
Thank you for covering for me.
No, that's all
And,
right. Like I said, I've been to meetings.
And also, just so you know, these meetings are all live streamed,
Okay.
so
thank you
there's
for letting me
nothing
know now.
confidential. It was already.
He knows.
Yes. Oh, it's one for each. I got you.
This is what I'm looking to get signed.
Okay,
But these are.
But the letter's the
These are
same.
additional, the
Yeah.
letter is exactly.
So, just so you know.
Okay.
May I ask a question of John?
Absolutely.
So John, I'm just naive. I was Googling as you were saying what this was. So
Yes.
I assume it's like a curriculum-based experience, or what are you planning to
It's
do?
a grandparent going into the class.
Yeah.
And we've discussed, it's 10 and 11-year-olds.
Yeah,
It's not gonna get into depth.
right.
Again, keep this a secret. My intention is to maybe list the 7 articles and maybe give a brief description. Depends on their attention span, actually.
I actually asked you it because this is like, I never thought I'd share this story ever in my life. And I grew up in Massachusetts, but we did a play on the preamble and, you know, the Bill of Rights. And I still to this day remember every one of the ones I was in, because I was a judge, can you guys imagine?
No, it can't.
And,
Doesn't
That's
suit
what
you
I'm
at all.
and that's how I learned, and it was a great experience. And that, and like, you know, going through any type of thing like that, that just sounds like a great enrichment. And I give you kudos for offering to do it.
Like I said, keep it a secret, but my intent is to go into a sports analogy, to try and explain to them what the Constitution is,
There you go.
that my favorite player, Tom Brady, if I were ever to get into a game and line up, and before they hiked the ball, I ran around and tackled them, is that a quarterback sack? And I hope they'll say, no, it's not, because you wait. And I'll say, why not? And they'll say it's against the rules. And that's what this is. So hopefully I'm gonna, I'm hoping to engage them and have a lot of fun. Maybe some of them will remember.
Right, that's
So,
awesome.
You're right, Will.
Great.
Have a great snack.
Updated Schoolhouse Rock.
I would love to play that. I remember that.
So I know how a bill becomes a law.
I just used that the other day with someone.
That is
Bill,
fantastic.
yeah, that song, How a Bill Becomes a Law.
Are there any other questions or?
That's awesome.
No, I think this is wonderful. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
doing it.
Should I come back to the Article the third? Yes, would be my.
That's entirely up to you.
Yeah, if you'd like
I've made a note to place this once again on the October
wonderful.
agenda, so.
We'd love to have you.
Tell us
Thank you.
how it went.
Yeah, I gotta say,
Maybe even
there
some
were
of the
6
kids.
people on my committee. This is bigger than some of the audiences we had.
Oh.
You guys are big. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very cool.
Let's see. New business, the rest of it? Annual approval of a school physician.
Yes, Gardner Family Medicine has served in that capacity for a number of years. And they still offer their services free of charge to the district, so that's who we would request that you approve.
Motion to approve. Gardner Family Medicine.
Second.
Second, okay. I heard so many seconds.
Yeah, right.
You
Use
need to
Joanne.
pick one, Joanne. Go on.
You take it, yeah.
Not two.
Questions or comments? I guess we're gonna approve because there were so many seconds on this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Perfect. Let's see. The annual approval of the truancy officers.
Can I make a motion for this one?
Nothing
So
truant there.
exciting.
Yeah, oh, yeah, motion, so move.
Moved by Megan,
I'm too excited about it.
Second.
second by Jody. Questions or comments? All those in favor? Let's not be truant. Okay, let's see. MSBA proposed resolutions.
Yes.
The
You
email
all
with the link.
received,
Yeah.
right?
They have come.
And as a reminder, Joanne has offered to serve in that capacity.
Great.
Thank you so much.
So this is on the agenda for you to discuss and give Joanne any feedback or guidance so that she can represent the board in October.
So if you haven't received it or it went to spam and is now gone, let me know and I'll send it to you and then, mark up whatever you want and then we can discuss it in October. It's a lot of reading.
Yes.
Yep. It is a lot of reading, riveting reading.
So I will ask that this be placed on the October agenda once again. Okay. All right. And that's that. Then may I make a request? Sure. If Angela doesn't mind, could we switch A and B under old business?
Oh. Yes.
I don't mind.
I think that's a safe bet.
Yeah, so I'm really excited to have our new school resource officer here, Jordan Gaudet, and Sheriff Mason. And so because this is a new 3-year contract with Kennebec County Sheriff's Department, we asked that they come and be invited and introduced to all of you. So you get to actually put a face to the name, you get to meet them and maybe ask any questions. So Deputy Jordan, as he wants to be called, joined us last week. So he spent the week getting to know staff, getting familiarized with the buildings. He and I toured, actually on Tuesday, we toured all the schools as well together. And I know he has been around town, checking out the schools and starting to get to know staff and students alike, so. Jordan, anything you want to say?
I'm happy to be here. Just really excited to start out. It's my first SRO position. If you asked me at the beginning of my career if this is where I would be, I'd probably tell you no. I had an opportunity to substitute for one of our other SROs last year and just kind of fell in love with it. So I'm really happy to be here.
Thank you. Thank you. We're happy to have you.
And also, everyone I run into, they're like, oh, you have Jordan, you're going to love him. So the feedback has been just incredibly positive, and we're excited to look at developing this 3-year relationship together.
If there's any questions, please reach out. He's the star of the show tonight.
I just wanted to eternally thank you for holding the door open on the first day of school, so I wasn't late for the first day of school.
You ran?
Yeah.
You ran? I said, you know what? I'm gonna wait. I'll wait. Welcome.
Yeah.
You're not gonna take him away.
No, I was
No,
gonna say,
you know,
yeah.
There was a lot of work that went into this.
Yes.
Pat
Yeah.
and I worked along with attorneys to make sure this was nailed down. Jordan is a seasoned person. He's mature, which you really need somebody in that position. And you don't need a young rookie right out of the academy that's gonna save the world. And I think he's gonna be a great fit. He understands what I want, what I expect, and what we people expect. I mean, you're paying good money.
Jordan, could you just briefly speak to the trainings that you had this summer to prepare you for this position?
So I attended Alice training this summer to be an Alice instructor. So I'm a current Alice instructor for the after student curriculum. I attended a 2-week SRO program sanctioned through the academy. It's kind of drinking through a fire hose there, but they're throwing everything at us in 2 weeks. It could really be a longer program, but it's a great program and it kind of prepares us for the juvenile side of things and just the different changes that we're gonna face as far as mixing school and what we do as law enforcement and how that role works. So I went to that for 2 weeks and then Alice and some other associated trainings revolving around the Alice program, so. But again, I heard someone say, are we gonna be here? As far as if I'm absent, minus a sickness or anything that's urgent right away, we, as an agency, backfill the position with a substitute, for lack of a better word. But there will be someone in the schools. It's my commitment. I know there's 6 schools in the district. I'm one person, but I've said it to every school and I'm sure everybody in here has heard me say it. I'm gonna do my best to be everywhere and give the schools what they need from us. And I've given, the front office staff has my number in every building. So if there is an issue or if there's certain things, I've been telling everybody to email me because there seems to be a lot of requests coming in, but I'm here for it and happy to be here and keep the schools safe and give the resources that we have available to the schools.
I have a stupid question.
There's no stupid question.
I was born and raised in Rhode Island and
Me too, buddy.
we never had resource officers in the school, and since I moved here,
Yeah.
a guard or a police officer stood in, so and I know because, and we keep losing them to the stadies and stuff like that, that's why I think the comment was, are you staying? But is it, and also we don't have sheriffs in Rhode Island either, so it's a new animal to me as well. So in lieu of the town police force not being able to do it, is it common across the state of Maine for the sheriff's office to kind of pick up the slack, for lack of a better word, or is there a dedicated line of operations for people who want to do SRO versus what you would regular patrolling type of stuff?
Well,
if that question made sense.
No, that's perfect. That's a really good question. Well, since I've been sheriff, when I started out with 1, and that one is in Lawrence, Somerset County. Okay, that happened before I came here, but now we have 3. We have a good product. I know we put out a good product, and I have the ability to let you have somebody. I'm very fortunate at my agency. I'm full. And they want to work with gonna work landscape work. I think that brings people in. I think they understand how important that SROs are. Yeah, they're cops. But it's that they're a resource for kids to go to, for teachers to go to. Because we're involved in so many different things. We're everything. We just don't write tickets and arrest people. It doesn't work like that.
And it is our hope, our expectation that we will continue to foster and develop a strong relationship with the city of Gardner, that the police department, and, should Deputy Jordan need backup, that backup and that support will absolutely be available. So we're really fortunate to have both law enforcement departments available to us.
I would not worry about that one single bit. I know if Jordan called for assistance, they'd be coming from Gardner, they'd be coming from everywhere. Because that's how it works.
And a question, just sort of like, what spoke to you? And it sounds like you had that experience kind of doing that, and then it was just like, oh, this makes sense. If it's okay to share, what did speak to you as you were doing that? And like,
To be honest with you, so you're speaking of my substitution.
say that,
Yeah, so when I did it, it's more, we deal with the outside community, and to kind of piggyback off what you said, as far as the sheriff's department role within the state, we cover a lot of rural towns that don't have the police resources like Gardner and the bigger cities. So you're really spread thin and kind of taking care of problems. But when I'm in the school, I think back to when I was in high school and my SRO. I can remember him very clearly. He had a very positive impact on a lot of lives. And just being that resource. And I don't know, the light bulb just came on. I started substituting and just realized the impact that we can have on the students, on staff, just being there every day and being immersed in it. And it's such an easier resource than if someone has to walk down to a local police department or to come to the sheriff's office. You're there and you're developing these relationships and making it easier for everyone to come in and say, hey, this is going on, even if it's big or small or whatever. And if we can help, we're happy to do so. And just that resource, and I think that's kind of what spoke to me. And I don't know, I can't explain it. The light bulb came on and I said, this is really great. There was a lot of people who go, I can't believe you like that. But after day one, I was hooked. And I think that was one of my first phone calls was to our lieutenant. And I said, this is great. And at that time, there was no open positions. That was last year. And this just fell into place and here I am. So again, I'm very happy to be here.
Thank you.
And his approach is very important. Now, this is his standard uniform. Mine looks very similar to that. All right. That can be a barrier. Somebody could go, woo. All right. That's why when he was dressed today, chinos, shirt, Kennebec County Sheriff's Office, just really kind of dressed down. Now he's got all the equipment necessary he needs in case of emergency right in his office. But we try to dress him down a little bit. And that way, when they're used to him and they see him like this, they're still gonna gravitate towards him.
Yeah,
Because he's just Jordan.
That's it. And at the end of the day, that is it. And that's kind of the big thing that I want to impress upon students, upon staff even, is that we are approachable and there's more to this than this.
Yeah.
So.
Welcome. So glad you came. Thank you.
Yeah.
So we're good.
Yeah.
We're all set and you protected us well, so thank you.
Have a good night.
Thank you, good night, appreciate it.
Very nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. That's okay.
Going around.
Thank you for being here.
Does he wear a full grade? Yeah, welcome aboard.
No, thank you for having me.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Not like that.
Yeah, exactly.
We're gonna love Jordan.
See you again, sir. Thank you. Good to see you again.
Yes, take care.
Go back to work, right? She'll be waiting tomorrow, right?
Go back to work.
Yeah.
Relationship. Good night, Shelley.
See ya. Nice to see you, Tom. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Okay. She's a dietitian. Okay.
Everyone's
coming.
Yeah, very good.
She loves Keegan.
Oh, very good. Okay. Great.
Oh, we're ready. Okay. Now it's the adoption of the strategic plan.
So
I feel like we
I
need
don't
bells
know
and
what your
whistles.
plan is, Angela, but we went through this quite extensively at our workshop. And you took the feedback that board members provided, you tweaked the strategic plan to reflect those changes. You want to show them, or what do you all want?
So it was in the original packet that got distributed, the original agenda. It was a staff, 100 and something page.
150 pages, yes.
But it was, the formatting did not change from our 4-hour workshop a couple of weeks ago. Some of the language changed where you would go. Yeah, you did not request any major conceptual changes, but there were some smaller changes, mostly in the action steps that you requested, and alignment to the guiding principles to be colored, to be ensured that the guide were actively reflecting strategies. So those are the changes I made, as you expected. I have it also where I could display it. I don't know if you need that or not, so I figured it'd be on the ready, at the ready.
I feel like we've done a lot of work and you've done a lot of work and it's in a good place. So I would endorse it, just as my initial opinion to the group. Being in the experience, yeah, that is a motion, yes.
That is a motion.
I second it.
Thank you, Linda.
Oh, welcome. Any questions or comments?
And just acknowledgement of Angela and all the staff.
I agree, thank you.
It's really my stream audience.
Immense gratitude.
It's been a 2-year process.
Right.
So this is what for those who might not know this. What is before you is draft number 4 after first having a year of listening sessions with community, family, students, and staff that were recorded and analyzed, transcribed, run through a system to look for themes, then verified by the people who provided the feedback that was accurate representation, edited based on their feedback, gone back through, revised, shared with you a strategic listening report with the links to the audio files, which you adopted. Then we used that to start drafting the plan. The plan has also gone through community feedback, community family feedback, staff feedback, student feedback, and administrative specific feedback, and then board feedback. So that's why we have so many drafts that have resulted in the plan that's before you. So it was a 2-year process with lots of parties involved. I just get to stand here now.
And this is an additional duty to running the curriculum for the entire district as well.
We all play an
I'm picking up
important
Matt
part.
Marshall's slack when he's saying
Yep, this is addition. So, motion to
Yep,
accept.
and we have a second, we're ready for a
And we're
vote.
ready. Does anyone else have any questions or comments?
Keep going.
We will praise fireworks. All those in favor? Motion carries. Jeff, are you not voting?
I'm not voting on that. It was so complex, I still want to think about some of the things that were in it.
Okay,
So is that a no or an abstention?
Abstention.
abstention. Okay. All right, from my report, the only thing I have is the MSMA Fall Conference. I'm really hopeful that board members will be able to find some time in your, I know, busy schedules to attend. We do pay for the student reps to come for a full day. And I think, and you get lunch, there's food, and lots of free legal advice. And half a day the next day, I believe, if your schedule is prepared. Joanne is gonna be our delegate, so that's great. And I'm really hopeful. We have lots of great workshops and if you stay through the whole day, there are a ton of prizes that Alyssa's really good at.
That was an online
Being
year.
on
I
the-
scored on that.
Being on the leaderboard and, yeah, she's really good at that.
Yeah.
So,
And the agenda has not yet been posted. It hasn't been
Right.
released.
not yet.
We submitted a proposal. And actually it was, the proposal is the process that we use to develop our strategic
Oh,
plan.
sweet.
And to do a presentation at this conference with Jennifer Chase.
Oh,
So we'll
great.
see whether we're selected, and if so, which day.
Nice.
We'll be doing that presentation.
Excellent. So be on the lookout in your emails for the agenda, the schedule. And I hope that, hope we'll have a good turnout. And then superintendent's report.
Yeah, I just want to give you a few updates. The opioid settlement, if you remember, gosh, I think it was back in 2020 that you signed on.
It
It was
was.
about 2020 that you
Yeah.
signed on for that class action lawsuit. We received initially, I told you, $1,250. And that was because we were an initial we signed on early. So we received an initial $1,250, then we received another payment of $2,500, and we were recently notified that we're going to receive another approximately $7,300.
Oh, wow.
So from that settlement, we'll have about $11,000. And so how that money is going to be used, it really needs to be used towards special ed. And so we've decided that we're going to use the money to get additional staff trained in de-escalation. Right, so feeling like that's a real need, and so that's a great resource for us. And also just to remind you, we still have money left over from the vaping class action suit.
Oh, wow.
And we received $15,000 from that. We're working on finalizing the plan. We plan on purchasing some more vaping devices, potentially. Terry has already purchased.
Detection.
Detectors, sorry. I forgot the word detector. Was
We're gonna
detector
hand them out like
devices,
candy.
right? Detector devices.
We're just going.
Yeah,
We're just going with it. It's everywhere.
So Terry has recently purchased 12. We're going to install those, see how
Detectors.
those work. And if necessary, depending, if we have some bathrooms that don't actually have them, we may be able to purchase maybe 4 more. We really want to make sure that we save some of those funds for education, right? We really want to invest in some education for our students, so we don't want to spend it all on equipment. But that's where that stands.
I like the great.
We had a great opening for the 24-25 school year. As Alyssa was saying, on the last Tuesday, we were fortunate to be allowed to use Johnson Hall. And so free of charge, they hosted all of us, and the wellness committee worked closely with Gardner Main Street, so that when our staff arrived on school buses, thanks to Jeff Ellis and all of our bus drivers, they dropped them off downtown. There were tables set, some outside Johnson Hall, some inside Johnson Hall, so our staff could really begin engaging with some community businesses to see all that Gardner has to offer, which was kind of the first step in our plan of strengthening our relationship with community, right? And making sure that staff knows all that our community has to offer. So we did that. We went in, and Johnson Hall provided some entertainment. So that was interspersed between our presentation of overviewing what the year is going to look like and our goals and talking about the strategic plan. But, you know, Mike did a great job of doing a little comedy act, and his son did a
Magic
little
and
juggling, and it was great. The feedback from staff was overwhelmingly positive. Speaking with administrators, they're telling me that the start of the year has been incredibly smooth this year. And one, the weather this summer was so much better than the weather that we had last summer. And so feeling like people are coming back a bit more rested, right? And ready to re-engage in the work. But also, they really liked having the additional workshop day at the beginning of the school year. Didn't feel so rushed to try to get everything done before the students returned. And they really liked having those 3 days, then having a long weekend, and then having the students return. So I appreciate that sort of feedback. And we'll keep that in mind as we look at next year's calendar that will be here before you know it.
I was just gonna say that anecdotally, I was downtown that day. I was working at Monkey Tree, and
Yes, you were. Oh, lucky
It
you.
was
It was a mob.
a lot of people, but every single person that came in was like, what is going on downtown? And I would tell them, and they were like, oh my gosh, that's so wonderful. They were like, this town is doing this great thing. They were really into it, like many people.
That's great.
Look at that.
But
We're
we
doing
hope to
something
be able to
right.
expand it next year
Yeah.
to include more
Yeah.
local businesses.
Oh, I gave
It was
them
awesome.
I gave a little thing.
There's some really
It was
fun things
fantastic.
downtown right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We
it's
happened to
fun.
drive through downtown while the teachers were all outside, like waiting to go in, and like didn't know what was going on at first, because the kids are like, oh, I see, and I was like, oh, and there's Mr. Walton, and I really like, and then I realized, this is everybody. So I was like, this is everybody.
How long
What
did
are
it
they?
take you to figure
What
that
are they
out?
doing?
There was a lot of them.
Be like,
Until they all show
my
up, you
kids-
don't realize how many people are employed by this
Right.
district. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, there's
Didn't have
3
any
more
concept
buses.
of,
Oh,
I only
Yes.
knew ahead of time because.
yeah.
Right.
But it really filled Johnson Hall.
Yeah.
the
It
work
took-
that the teachers put in
Yeah.
ahead of time.
It took 9 buses.
There was 9, okay.
So, and there were things we
Yeah, it was
learned,
just
we
like
might
every
do
time I
things a
looked at
little
the list,
differently,
sure.
so while
Yeah.
some of you enjoyed driving on Main Street, watching the staff shortly after they were dropped off. There were others who maybe were not as happy when they got stuck in traffic waiting for the staff to be picked up on Main Street. So we'll work on that.
Yeah.
The logistically, but it was just an extraordinary
Yes.
event. It was
It
great.
was
Such a
perfect
good
weather
way.
for it too.
Yeah.
And Johnson Hall has offered to host that event again next year.
Nice.
So, yeah, very
Impressed.
generous
You
of them,
impressed them.
very generous.
Awesome.
So at the last meeting, I also told you that we've been working hard to submit applications for new construction. We were able to submit them day before they were due. They were due by the 30th, and we submitted them on the 29th. Some board members asked to be able to see applications. So this alone is the high schools. Gabe Dostie did an amazing job compiling a lot of this information. Administrators really supported me by giving me some input on the challenges that they have with their facility regarding instruction. So I have copies in the office for all 6 schools. So if anyone is interested, you're welcome to come and take a look and see the application. So please feel free. Again, it will be a year before we find out how we rate, but they're in.
Thank you.
Is that one staple holding that?
Tony, that's impressive, right?
That is like,
Special
What
staple.
kind of staple?
that's like,
Gonna hang
That's
you
like
up.
piece of metal.
That's
Yeah.
like straight up for
Is that like a construction staple?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
You just-
special.
Just punch
It's
it through,
special.
yeah.
It's special.
That's impressive. That's a lot of.
I wanted to kind of let you know, that, and you have a copy of one.
Yep.
I've received 2 FOA requests. I've given you a copy of one. I think a letter was sent to you as well as to me from Representative Sobolewski. So I provided a copy of the request and I provided you a copy with my response. We are working on it. It's just the timing with the start of school. So I have to have it back by the 13th is when we thought we would be able to meet that request. Also have a second request from Parents Defending Education. That came in asking for policies or presentations shown to staff that serve as guidelines or guidance within the district for students who identify as transgender or non-binary and any gender support plan templates. So just wanted you to be aware that we have those two and I am working on that. The last thing I have is the cell phone ad hoc committee. At the workshop meeting, all agreed that this is something that we want to do. I now need to know from you, what do you want the makeup of that committee to be? My thoughts are that I would serve on it, that we would have a central office administrator beyond just myself, 2 school board members, 2 student school board representatives, and I've spoken to both of them and they would be willing to serve, 2 parents, 3 staff members, because I think we need to have representation from elementary, middle, and high school, and then a building administrator. That gives us 12. I feel like a committee.
That's a big committee.
Right, that's this committee. What are your thoughts about that? And if we want students on it, we want staff on it, we're probably looking at an afternoon meeting.
Right.
So we need to have membership that include people that have some flexibility in their schedule so that they can meet in the afternoon. So does that makeup sound appropriate? Am I missing any stakeholders?
No, I don't think so.
I was just wondering what time like you think that these meetings would be at.
I don't know, Kira, I want to do it in the afternoon, so 2:30, maybe something like that, understanding that the afternoons would be easier for you, right?
Yeah, it would be easier for me and Sage both.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, I also think for staff, but I have to also be mindful that if we have an elementary staff member,
That's right.
that their day is until 3 o'clock, they're teaching until 3. So it might have to be like 3 to 5 versus 2:30 to 4:30, because usually they're 2-hour meetings. Are there board members that would like to serve?
I'm ready. Terry's shocked, I raised my hand, I bet.
I'm ready.
Not me too.
Are there others?
I would, it would be difficult.
That time
all
would
the
be-
time, but I could, but I'd be interested.
Is that a once a month meeting? Or we don't, yeah, it's
I-
not hard.
Yeah, I think we have to do is figure out the membership and then consult with the membership and see what.
Megan, if you
What
wanna do
people
it,
can
I'll hop off.
Better.
You wanna do it? Do you wanna do it?
I mean, it is interesting.
Then do it.
Interesting.
Put Megan down.
If it's
I
an
can always
ad
come and
hoc
sit if I
committee,
want
are
to.
other board
Yeah.
members able to attend or they're not if they're not on the list, just a question. I always ask that, like if Molly wanted to come.
Can we listen? Just sit and listen.
Yeah, I mean, so
It's not really a public meeting.
it's not really a public meeting, but if there are board members that have some interest, yeah, I think we could
That's what
probably
I was
accommodate
thinking.
that.
Okay, I think that's
Yeah.
good.
We could
So-
pop in and bring snacks and not share.
And we'll have minutes anyway, so that you should know when we're meeting.
We wouldn't do that.
So,
We would share.
so Alyssa and Megan,
Sure.
We probably don't know this yet, but would this committee be sending out surveys to the students? Would that be?
I
another
hope so.
portion? Okay.
That
Would
would be
me and
great.
Sage like kind of coordinate with Miss Arnold about that too in our like meetings?
absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, you can be the
Right.
conduit to directly to the building, definitely.
Yeah.
That's a very good idea.
Yep.
And I would suspect that there'll be surveys to parents
Totally.
as well, right? So, okay, I will be looking for names of parents. So, if you have some ideas and suggestions for 2 people to serve on this, certainly send them to me. So, okay, that's my report.
That's a lot.
Thank you.
Thank
It's a
you.
lot.
There was many pieces.
And Pat, just high school student representation?
Yeah,
That's fine.
it's just harder to have middle school representation, but that's where I want to at least have a staff member from the middle school, so we have a voice. And then, of course, all of the work will be shared with all administrators, so
I
if.
just love to throw my son under the bus.
Looking for, yeah.
Well, he saw the news article Wednesday morning about the Bath School District, and as he was going to catch the bus, that's never gonna work. I said, well, just wait, buddy, we'll be talking about it this year.
I love it.
Such a positive thinker.
Yeah.
That's
It's crap.
so. That's it for our agenda, with the exception of an executive session.
That shouldn't be long, and there will be no action coming out of this executive session.
So we'll close the video down.
You can shut the video down.
Shut her down.
So we do need a motion to go in.
You can leave.
I move that we go into executive session.
Second. And the students don't
Was
have
that
to stay.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I
Thank you
need.
so much for coming.
Is that a?
Sharing your
all in
emotion,
favor?
it's okay.
All in favor?
Did a good job.
Everyone's in favor of going
Yes.
into executive session? Okay.
Good job, good job.
You do, were you waiting to talk with someone or?
Kind of,
Okay, no, yeah, you have to leave, sorry.